Well, thank you very, very much, Mr. Chair. I want to thank you for convening this meeting. I agree with what you said earlier, that our purpose here is to find out what went wrong and how to make sure it doesn't go wrong again. And I want to add my thanks again to the three of you, as the chairman just mentioned, individually and collectively, for what you do. And I know I keep saying it's a hard job, but it's a hard job because when it's done right, it really requires a great deal of going beyond the job description and working to find ways to make us better as a nation. So thank you again, Chairman Sessions. I'm looking forward to working with you. This is our inaugural meeting of this committee that has been established in the 118th Congress, and I'm hoping that we can move forward in many ways on bipartisan issues to come up with solutions, because at the end of the day, that's why we were all set here. Today, the Oversight Subcommittee on Government Operations and the Federal Workforce convenes, as I just said, its first hearing of the 118th Congress. As ranking member of the subcommittee and as a member who represents a large population of federal workers, I look forward to supporting our nation's hardworking civil servants, and the American people, in my opinion, deserve a federal government that delivers responsible, credible, and effective policies and programs. Though we may differ sometimes in terms of our strategies and our programs, I believe that the chair and I are seriously committed to serving the constituencies to the best of our abilities. And Chairman Sessions, again, I'm looking forward to the many days and weeks ahead as we try to do that together. Today we hold the second hearing of this Congress focused on the subject of evaluating improper payments and fraud in pandemic programs. I want to remind my fellow members that millions of Americans, regardless of their political affiliation or their geography, felt the effects of the global pandemic when individuals and families and communities desperately needed a lifeline. Congress acted swiftly to provide expanded unemployment benefits to workers. We directed administrative funding to states that were struggling to process skyrocketing unemployment insurance claims. And these expanded benefits over time helped millions of Americans to make ends meet. And my office alone worked with hundreds of constituents throughout the greater Baltimore area to ensure that they receive these crucial dollars. These are real dollars that were meant for real people. The pandemic triggered, as we all know, economic uncertainty, particularly the disastrous things that have happened to our small business community, so much so that by April 2020, an estimated 45% of those businesses across the country, unfortunately, were forced to shut their doors. Thankfully, Congress's Paycheck Protection Program authorized the Small Business Administration to distribute a record $800 billion to help effective businesses across the country continue to pay their employees. Unfortunately, what we've seen previously failed to implement the safeguards that we in the Congress explicitly designed by statute, which exacerbated, in my opinion, the pandemic fraud. On the other hand, Congress and the Biden administration took decisive action to identify improper payments and to combat fraud. For example, congressional Democrats passed the American Rescue Plan, which included additional funding for federal offices and offices of inspectors general to be able to do what all of you are doing, that is to combat fraud. We established the COVID-19 Fraud Enforcement Task Force, as you're aware. And in the previous Congress, while I served as vice chair of the Small Business Committee, we held substantial hearings on COVID-19 pandemic relief programs. We participated in numerous bipartisan briefings with the SBA. I co-sponsored and we all moved to pass H.R. 7352, the PPP and Bank Fraud Enforcement Harmonization Act of 2022, which again was a bipartisan bill to extend the statute of limitations and to be able to go after the bad guys that continued to commit PPP fraud. These are real solutions that help the agencies to crack down on fraud and to make sure that our federal dollars were being used and being sent to where they were intended to go. In March of 2020, the Subcommittee on Government Operations, led by my friend Mr. Connolly of Virginia, held a hearing to explore how the federal government should in fact use data sharing, proactive analytics and customer experience to research and to prevent improper payments and fraud before they occur. Throughout the pandemic, many of us have fought hard. On behalf of Americans all over the country, I would remind everyone that it was under Chairman Jim Clyburn's leadership that the Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Crisis held 7 hearings focused on combating fraud in relief programs and recovered millions, at least $109 million, and they are still recovering money that was improperly used and payments that went out improperly. Among the many accomplishments, that committee helped us to be able to do what we ought to do when things go awry, and that is to try to find a way to save taxpayers' dollars before they continue to become victims of fraud. And I'd like to enter, Mr. Chairman, into the record the final report of that subcommittee.
Without objection, they'll be entered in the record.
Thank you, sir, which details the major successes of that democratic effort to prevent fraudsters from exploiting weaknesses in the programs. I'd like to just close by saying I want to really be clear. Fraudsters must be identified, prosecuted, and sent to jail. This is theft, grand theft, with a great deal of premeditation. And to be able to find a way to recover funds and to protect the innocent, I think, is the very least we can do. And the innocence in this instant is the United States of America, which responded as it should to the great need that had come about as a result of the pandemic. So I look forward to today's hearing. Gentlemen, I would just say this to you also, aside from the fact that I think you have a very hard job. We are looking to you to find out what you found out and to tell us how we can legislatively and in a bipartisan manner put in place the things that we need based on your investigations to stop a lot of what is still going on, but more importantly, to prevent the things that are incubating now that you have identified and we know are huge problems. So with that, Mr. Chair, I want to thank you again, and I yield back the balance of my time.